Hey guys, Ted Bogert here. We're back with Transformation Talk. I love this series. We talk with amazing guests who share their journey and their story. It's a transformative one, and not only did they transform, but we want to be able to bring you the story so you can have your transformative moment. I want to introduce my co-hostess with the mostest, the always flowery in the background, Donna Morton Morgan. And our guest today is Sheila Wright. She's the founder of RUDJ, and it's rudj.org if you want to check out the site. It's scrolling across the bottom there. Just excited for this message to be told, but we'll get into that in a minute. Welcome, ladies. How are you today?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Looking great. Everybody looks great.
Yes.
So, Donna, we'll start with you. Obviously, people who don't know you, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then let's roll into the introduction to Sheila.
Sure. Excited to be here once again for Transformation Talk. You know, Transformation Talk is really just about how you have personally, maybe you've transformed yourself. Maybe it was a situation. Maybe it was domestic violence, some kind of abuse. Maybe it's just addiction. Maybe it's just negative habits. Maybe it's a health condition. There's so many things that each of us are going through that we work on to transform our lives. Or could it be that you are using your life situation, pain, trauma, experience to then turn around and transform the lives of others?
Yes.
It's crazy, but it's amazing at the same time.
Yes.
How we can use our pain into our purpose.
Amen.
Yes.
And I think when we're able to do that, then there's strength, there's healing in that. So that is what we're all about. So whether you've experienced it personally or you using something that you've been through, do you know that most nonprofits is really the result of someone that experienced something, whether in their life or loved ones, and now they're using that pain for a purpose. And today that leads us right into Miss Sheila Wright, the founder of RUDJ Inc. Heart, you know, when you hear her story, you're going to understand and see how she's using her pain as now her purpose. Welcome, Sheila.
Yes. Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. She's already introduced me, so I do thank you for that wonderful introduction. So I am Sheila, and I am the founder of RUDJ Inc. So my story goes a little like this. I lost my son. His name is Dana Andrews Jr. We called him DJ, to a fentanyl overdose on February the 6th of this year. I can say as a mother, it is, and it still is, the hardest thing I've ever had to endure. But my family and I did not want to just live in grief. We want to live in purpose. And if I could just save one life with this message, that would be worth everything. We founded RUDJ Inc. We were an official nonprofit in May. Because we were just right on top of it. Like the day of his funeral, we all sat down and said, okay, what are we going to do? Wow. We don't ever want to see another family. We want to give them resources. We don't want them to have to go through what we went through. So our purpose is to provide resources, education, a place that you can vent, especially in the African American community, because the stigma that we have is so, it's so deep. It runs deep when it comes to mental health and substance abuse. So we're here to just tell our story, and through our story, people have come clean, you know, with the shame. Like, yeah, it's shameful when you raise a child and that child grows up to be the total opposite of what your goals in life for them was. you know, it was shameful that he was walking the street. DJ was homeless. He was living on the streets, talking to himself. He would smell bad. I would pick him up sometimes and just go, wow, son, like, what are you doing? But now when I see someone, I see something totally different. You know, I see his mother is somewhere, his or her mother is somewhere in tears right now praying. So, one of the things I do is I will walk up to especially the younger generation and say, when the last time you spoke to your mom? When the last time you spoke to your dad? You know, and we actually ran up on someone who hadn't spoken to his parents in years, and I allowed him to call his mom. You know, and it just gave me joy because those phone calls, really, a lot of nights I wasn't sleeping and someone allowed my son to use their phone just to say, Mama, I'm okay. So RU DJ is here to spread the word. We are Narcan distributors. We have Narcan. We go, like Sunday we did an event on Central Boulevard where we gave out Narcan to the homeless and help feed the homeless, and you know, just so that they can have some sense of purpose.
Wow. I mean, lots of questions. First of all, thank you for sharing that. And the first question, as I was listening to you, I imagine it must still be difficult, even though you know this is your purpose, to share that story all the time. Talk a little bit about that, because I've had so many guests come on who have a painful experience, and I think, would I want to talk about it all the time? I mean, I know that I would, I think, but how much pain or how much you have to overcome, or does it ever get easier? Talk a little bit about that, because
it never gets easier. I get that pit every time, you know, that feeling at the pit of my stomach. But I think about it every night before I go to bed. The hardest thing for me is because when he passed away, he was on Orange Blossom Trail. The hardest thing for me every night is he was alone.
Yeah.
Like, did he know, you know, like, where was he? Did he call out for me? Did he? Those are the things that I think about, but I have to keep going. You know, I push through it. I do, you know, I did start taking medication for depression. And that was a hard thing for me to do as a Black woman, to be honest, because we're taught that you just get through it and you push on. Therapy, you know, I talk about it. My daughter, I had my oldest daughter, she actually started seeing a therapy since this process. We're all dealing with it in our different ways, but we all come together because we know it's bigger than what we went through. You know, it's really big. It's people are dying every day. And until it hits you at your front door, you know, that's when your awareness rise, and you know what's needed out there. He has 2 children, 7 and 5 years old. So yeah, we can't stop. We have to, you know, do this at least for them so that they can know that he didn't die in vain. There's a purpose behind his death, and we're going to try to get the word out about awareness and just family, and what can you do as a family when you're going through your loved one that's an addict or dealing with mental health, because his mental health came first. He was he's an Army veteran, and when he came home, he was diagnosed with PTSD, major depressive disorder, and general anxiety. Wow. So it started from there, and he started out drinking, and then it graduated, you know, to other substance, but it was all trying to cover those voices in his head. And as a family, we would, you know, just go to church. Just, boy, you just get over it. Like, you just got to keep pushing. It's time for us to, as families, to stop and really hold these conversations. What's going on? You know, why? And do you need therapy? Instead of trying to sweep it under the rug and make it look good. Because I was very guilty.
You're up against, and then Donna, I know you've got a question. You're up against something completely different. With alcohol is one thing, but when you start with anything heavier than that, fentanyl especially, I mean, it takes more than just telling them to get over it.
Yes,
And
it does.
and it just, there is, because that is just such a powerfully horrible drug and addiction.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, Donna, yes, I interrupted
So I wanted to just say, so addiction is something that affects the entire family. It's not just the one person. My first, I've had 3 husbands. So I have to say, my first husband, I was married when I was very, very young, suffered from addiction. And that was back in the 80s when, you know, crack and cocaine was very popular, right?
Yes.
And I used to always think that just saying, if you love me enough,
yes,
you will stop. If
yes,
if you go to church with me, if you do all these things. So we sometimes, as family members, we think that it's because they don't love us enough, or they would
yeah,
just say no. It's and now that you're saying that, my husband was Army. Actually, he was a military. So you come back sometimes with a lot of different issues, but we're not, you know, we're just thinking they're not behaving, or they're not being good
yes,
people.
yes, yes. And
When did you start to see the signs, Sheila?
so when he came home from the military, he came home totally not the same. I started seeing the transformation from to drugs very early. And I would tell my husband and my children, like, there's something else is going on. And, you know, because I know my child and I know what DJ went from being what we would call a pretty boy. Like, he wouldn't leave the house unless everything was head to toe perfect, to not caring. You know, he didn't care how he looked. That was the first sign that something is not right. He would walk out with mismatched shoes. Like, what is going on? So, and he has the one thing about him, he was very honest. You know, he never lied. If you asked him a question, he's gonna say, his thing was, I'm not gonna lie, and he's gonna give it to you. So when I started seeing the signs, he would make statements, because his drug of choice was meth. But he would make statements, but not saying, I did it. You know, I'm doing meth. He would just be like, boy, y'all don't want to see me doing that meth. If I was on that meth, it'll be different. And I would just be like, why is he always bringing that up? But that was his way of letting us know, you know, that something else was out there. The change was dramatic. It was like night and day. And it happened really quick. Like, the attitude changed, the stand up all night, for days at a time, like 3 days. And I would be like, God, you still, you know, what's going on with you? And when it finally came out that it was meth, devastated. I was totally devastated. Because another myth we have in our community is, that's a white man's drug. So that's the first question people ask me when I say his drug of choice. What white person did he hang around? Actually, none. He was a loner. He hung by his. So we have to get these myths out of there. These drugs are here for everyone to use. It's not a class. It doesn't have a class. It doesn't have a race. It's after people.
Agreed.
People are affected. It's not a certain class of people, a certain race of people. The reason we focus on the African American community is strictly because of the stigmas and what we went through, even with my mom. And I love my mom dearly. She just thought, let's just pray. We had so many prayer sessions, and prayer works, but prayer with some recovery method, you know, some help, you know. So we're trying to educate everyone that it's just, even the church, the faith-based community, I'm learning, is the hardest to get to.
Yes.
Because they don't want to hear that you're getting therapy. They don't want to hear, they want you to just lay it on the altar. But I have a saying that God has the whole world in his hand. He kind of gave us some therapists and some, you know,
Right.
Agreed.
You know, he gave us some, you know, he gave us these things because he's
Right.
holding the whole world.
He gave us doctors to perform heart surgery, and
yeah.
we have to stop thinking. The stigma is terrible across the board, but I am familiar with the fact that in the African American community or the Black community, it is definitely more taboo.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about Narcan, because I think there's a lot of people who still don't understand what Narcan is and the importance of it, because you mentioned it in your first discussion. And so can you educate the audience a little bit on Narcan and why you brought it up, why it's part of our
Yes, Narcan is the life-saving. Like you said, the stigma of Narcan is you have to be on drugs. I've heard so many people tell me, I'm not on drugs, I don't need that. It's not only for addicts. You know, sometimes people are on pain pills, prescribed pain pills, and we all do it. If you have a headache, you take 2 Tylenol. If those 2 Tylenols don't work, you might take 2 more. Sometimes people do that with their prescribed their Percocets and their oxycodones, you know, and you take too many and they overdose. So if your doctor prescribes you a pain pill, a narcotic, he should also give you Narcan, because it's just unfortunate that sometimes people are in so much pain that they want to take just one more, and that one more may be too much, and they're overdosing. So it's not just for addicts. You know, you need that in your life, and sometimes people are addicts in secret. You don't even realize that your cousin is an addict because it's a secret addiction that they're holding. They're functional, they're going to work, they're going to school, and they're addicted, and then they overdose. And you want to be prepared, that just in case, keep it in your purse, keep it in, you know, just keep it close. And it's very simple to use. You get it, and I wish I had it to show. It comes 2 in a box, and you just squirt it up your nose. One squirt here, one squirt there. You turn them to their side. Of course, we're going to call 911.
Right.
You call 911. If that doesn't work, if that first doesn't work, you turn them back over. You don't have to do CPR, because it's an instant, they jump up. And if it doesn't work, you use the second squirt and you turn them. By then, EMS should be there. And I advise everyone, if you use it, just stand back, because sometimes they do come back very violent, because we just took them out of their high. You just instantly, so they're going to come back in a state, but it's life-saving.
It's so important. And I feel like we've been fighting a little bit. The community thinks of it as a crutch rather than a lifesaver. And this is all community.
I heard that yesterday, actually.
Yeah. And so I think, I don't know if Orange County or Orlando has been equipped with it, but there are police forces that get equipped with it. And I think that is such a positive sign, and we need to get over it. Like, if somebody's on the gurney and they're having a heart attack and they're 400 pounds, you're not telling them, hey, you need to eat better next time, dude. You have to perform. You have to do the life-saving stuff, and we need to get out of that stigma part. So I'm glad you shared that. A lot of misinformation out there.
We also have fentanyl test strips. A lot of people, they're just legalized in the state of Florida. They were legal in a lot of states. Florida was one of the states that they weren't. So the fentanyl test strips, you can actually test the substance to see if it's laced with fentanyl. And we get a lot of pushback, because, you know, people are saying, oh, that's just telling them to do it. But it's not. I wish DJ could have tested his substance to see that it was laced with fentanyl.
Yes.
You know, and I tell a lot of when we go, because it's really big on the college campuses, because, you know, they do party drugs. So my thing is, if it scares you, because it just might scare them to test, oh my God, it's laced. And it may, you know, it may turn out opposite than where it's not encouraging. It may just scare them, because you're not going to have a test strip every time you want to pop a pill, you know. So I think it's very important that we stop thinking about it as a crutch and think about it as a resource to help us and to educate, because everything is laced. Marijuana is being laced.
Agreed. It's all laced, and
everything is being laced.
And that there are many people that I know have lost loved ones because they were doing a drug that they thought was not laced, and it was
And it was
laced. And
laced.
fentanyl, y'all, is just, I can't stress enough, do your research, how absolutely horrible, addictive, and is a life killer. It really is.
Yeah. It's a life changer. Fentanyl changed my life. It changed my life. It took someone very near to my heart. My baby. He was my youngest child. He was a father. He was a husband. He was a brother, a grandson. And it took him all of the hope that we had for him, because we always said he's gonna beat this. And I would tell him, DJ, you're gonna stand on the stage one day and people are gonna remember your name because your story. And it turns out that they're still gonna remember his name, but he won't be the vessel.
Yes.
Right.
So it's life changing for the families. The reason I came up with Are You DJ is not for, it is for the addict. Are you DJ? Do you need help? But it's also for the families. Are you DJ? Because we became DJ. We were up calling each other. Anyone heard from him? The tears. So Are You DJ is focused on not only the addict, the family, the friends, even his friends, his best friend was very concerned. So it affects everyone. So Are You DJ? And if you are, get the resources, get the help. We're available, areyoudj.org. If you have any questions, you can email us at awareness@areyoudj.org. I have resources available for families that may not have insurance and think that you need to have a lot of money to get help. There are free treatment facilities out there for your loved one. There's free counseling for the families. So that's what we're here for. We're here to just try to educate and make it a little easier for the families to get the resources that they need.
Beautiful.
Sheila, you mentioned also the stigma as a parent, right? Because we all want our children to be amazing and outstanding. So you, as a parent, struggling, realizing that this child is going down a path, the shame and all of that comes behind it too. And I think it's important for families, because we especially as parents, we're going to blame ourselves and say, you know what, I should have done that.
Yeah.
And how did you even get through that piece?
I still struggle with that. My husband, he struggles with, because DJ was not allowed in my home, because we tried everything and it had got to a point where it was disrupting the household. So we had to get to a point where it was okay if you don't get help. And my husband still struggles with the I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And although we set that boundary and we stuck to that boundary, I personally, I don't have any regrets, because I know I did everything that I could do for him. And even he told me out of his own mouth, Ma, it's not you guys. I've gotten myself into something that is not as easy as I thought it was to get out. So I think living with the regret for us is, and my regret is, the only regret I have is that he didn't win the fight. I still get mad at him. Like, God, I don't believe you went out like this. That's my regret. But through that regret, somebody is going to win this fight, and I'm going to be a part of their winning. So
such a beautiful gift you're giving the world, Sheila, honestly, out of all that sorrow and just heartbreak. But like Donna said earlier, that's where so many nonprofits come from. You've experienced something life-changing, as you said, life-altering. Thank you for sharing that. What a beautiful, tragically beautiful story. And I know it takes a lot every time. That's how I felt the whole time as you were speaking. And as a parent, I just can't even imagine. I really can't. All right. What's the best way, again, for them to find out more about you, Sheila, and Are You DJ?
Our website is areyoudj.org. You can email us at awareness@areyoudj.org. And you can always give us a call. Our number is 386-601-9332. Any questions, any any doubts that you have, if you have a loved one that's struggling with addiction and you just don't know where to go, even if I can't tell you where to go, we're going to figure it out together. I will stand by you through this journey because I know the journey is not easy. As having a loved one that's an addict is not an easy thing.
Bless you, Donna.
No, it's
how about you? How can they reach you?
Sure. So you can find me at Women of Culture Inc. Women of Culture, KULTURE INC, or at Inner Vibes with a Z Consultant.
I know.
Yeah, this one, and it hits home for me because,
Yeah,
you know, my organization right now is we support women, children, and families affected by trauma, incarceration, or poverty. And, you know, a lot of that is wrapped up too in addiction. And I remember having to talk to my kids when it was their dad, and, you know, they said, you know, Mom, we understand that you chose us. So sometimes the family dynamics, you have to say, well, either we all go down this path, and, or, you know, you have to sometimes save some for the betterment of the family. But,
yes,
you know, it's
agreed.
something that I've had to apologize and talk to them about. And they're like, no,
Yeah,
because addiction is not, they're not the same people.
yeah,
Once they get to that level. I understand how you mentioned with the household. My husband in that time, when I started getting the calls from the drug dealer and he would pass the phone over to me, I knew that it gotten to another level where he was like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you have to sometimes make that difficult decision that, yeah,
To walk away.
yeah.
Walk away.
Yeah, my
All right, ladies.
daughter-in-law actually
Go ahead.
left. My daughter-in-law, and I tell everyone I love her. She didn't leave him. She separated from him for the sake of the children. So I totally understand. And she was still, you know, team. She always wanted to know, she was concerned, but she had to kind of go away because the children, you have to think about them.
You do. You have to, because like you said, it's life-changing for them as well.
Yeah.
And it impacts them. The long-term effects, all of the studies they've done on this,
yeah,
the long-term effects of being a child in a household where there's addiction, so many of them go on to repeat or find something else. It's very hard to get past that.
Yes.
And we forget about the children a lot of the time.
Yes.
We really do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Sheila. Praying for you and your family and your mission. Thank you, Donna. We'll be back next week with Transformation Talk. Please, if you have anybody you think could use the services, go to rudj.org.